Hello, everyone. It's so good to have so many of you with us today on Conversations with Chosen Pen. We're so excited as we continue our conversations about literacy, childhood literacy, adult literacy. We're concerned about all forms of literacy because we know that in our society here in America that it is difficult for us to be accomplished and go the places and grow the way we would like to grow, own houses and experience the wonderful things that happen in America, supposedly, without being literate. So today we're going to talk to some ladies who also believe in childhood literacy, and they've done quite a few things. And I am going to allow you to hear from them as we talk about literacy. But I do want to also tell you that we have a literacy campaign going on that's from here. We'll be doing it, I guess, through next month or the next couple of months. But we also have a literacy campaign going in Africa, which has become very clear, near and dear to our hearts. And we'll talk about that a little bit more this evening, but I'm excited about that as well. So we're going to get started, but I'm sure you all know who I am. I'm Dr. Norma McLaughlin. I am the founder and CEO of Chosen Pen Publishing and several other little pieces that I do, but the most important one is this one. And I'm going to start off by letting each of our guests introduce themselves, tell a little bit about themselves, and we'll come back and talk about literacy and answer some questions on their behalf. So, Dr. Miller, I think we'll start with you since you are the M, and we'll come back to Ms. Negrita Smart since you're the S.
Hello, I'm Juanita Miller, and I wrote a book on elementary catechism. A catechism is a summary of principles of Christian religion in the form of questions and answers used for instruction of Christians. And this book is primarily elementary for children ages 0 to 5.
Okay, and Ms. Smart, we're going to talk about that some more, but
All right. Hello, I'm
you
Negrita.
tell us who you are. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Negrita Smart. I recently wrote a children's book titled Grace and the Golden Rule. It teaches kids how to treat other people. And I'm also a professional trainer. I teach adults new hires for an insurance company.
Oh, okay. So you're one of those multifaceted, we call dualpreneurs. Okay, very good. And so is Dr. Miller. She does a number of things as well. And she didn't tell us all of the activities and products that she does. But we'll, I'm sure, hear about some of that and some of the books that she's in the process of writing as well. But anyway, now that you talked about yourselves, let's talk about what actually motivated you to write these books. Because as we said, we believe that everyone should be literate, and your books are basically for children. And it is my firm belief that all children should be able to read and understand what they read and comprehend what they've read by the end of the third grade, because we know by that time we should have, as adults, we will have done them a disservice if that is not the case. That is not their fault, but it is the fault of us that we did not give them what they needed to be prepared to make it through the rest of their lives, really. So, and most of what you've written is geared towards that age group. So tell your the listening audience, what's your drive? What made you do that? What made you want to write what you wrote? It can be either of you. I'm sorry, I'm supposed to call. Okay, let's start with you, Dr. Miller.
Well, the reason why I wrote it is I had about 30 years ago, my mom brought some books, 2 books for my eldest son. And one of them was the Lord's Prayer, and the other one was the 23rd Psalm. And as a child, she started reading them. As a newborn, she started reading them, the books, continuously, like every day, 2-3 times a day. And before I was, during my pregnancy, she also read the books and the Bible frequently around me. So then when my child was born, he started reading the books. And then my second child, the eldest child, started reading the books because he had memorized them at like age 1, 2. And it's like a picture book, and he understood the picture. So he took it that he was reading the books. And I was like, wow, we need books like this for our children, Black children. And therefore I said, why don't I do a book in the same manner, the 23rd Psalm, the Lord's Prayer, the 10 Commandments, and the Beatitudes. And I spoke with First Lady about it. And I said, First Lady, how does that sound? And she said, it sounds good. And it promoted literacy for my child. And it was like pleasurable reading them because he was like, I'm reading to my brother. And he did have a brother. And it just gave him that spark. It was like a pleasure of reading. Did I explain it well?
Yes, you did. And it's wonderful to hear about the intergeneration of reading, because I think most of us have a love of reading from somewhere. I know mine came from my grandmother, who encouraged us to read and encouraged me to read, and to say that with that, if I never, she said, as a little Black child, you ain't never traveled the world, but if you're reading, you can go anywhere. You can travel the world. And so through books, that's how I actually was able to do that and then I went into the military, so I had to travel and see the world. Of course, that I didn't see all the world doing that, but that was my impetus to do the more of the reading. Okay, Ms. Smart, what was your drive?
My motivation was to write a book for children that would teach them lessons based on Bible principles. So the character, she's 5 years old, and I'm dealing with a lot of number and their symbolism. The number 5 represents grace. Again, she's 5 years old, but she's presented with opportunities to do those things that are right. She has a heart to do those things because she's been taught lessons by her parents. So I wanted to do something that was somewhat different than what I had been made aware of and looking at books on the shelves. But this is something that was going to help me minister to young children. So that was my drive. And also the character, she pays tribute to the women in my family. I created her. I was inspired to create her from different features of the women in my family, beginning with my mom. She has the color of my mom's eyes. She has my sister's nose and my sister's smile. So there are some features that allow me to just really reflect on moments in my childhood too, that's seen through the book. So it's a twofold motivation. Primarily, majorly, was to pull from Bible principles and lessons and teach that to children. Then also it allows me to share some memories growing up as a child.
That's amazing, because as I sit here, both of you were a foundation in Christianity, and that's your impetus to share with the children. Because we know that so many of them today don't get that. They don't have an opportunity. The grandmothers took us to church, our parents took us to church, or whatever. That's not always the case now. So through your book, so that you've written, then these children are the one who read them, or the parents who read them to them. There is an underlying message for everybody in that. And I mean, I love that. That's wonderful. Okay, then let's move on then. And I think I said a little bit about this, but tell us, what is your perspective on literacy? And it doesn't necessarily have to be childhood literacy, but you know that what you've written has a greater impact on the world. So what is your perspective on that? We'll go back to you, Ms. Miller.
And my perspective on it is that if children have a pleasure in reading something, and they can relate to them, or it looks like them and sounds like something that they'd be interested in, it'll make them more apt to want to read. Because I feel that my first one, he's a reader, but the second one, by being read by the eldest child, that seems like he was on his way to doing great things, because your children always look up to their older siblings for some reason, and he really got the grasp of reading more quickly because he was being taught by his brother the about Christianity and about the Lord. Okay. And once the children have a relationship with the Lord, I think it just changes their life in so many good ways. Because mom might have a relationship, your father might have a relationship, your grandmother, but you have to have that relationship with God, and understanding what the disciples went through. And when Jesus said, pray ye in this manner, if I feel like I want everybody in the world to know the prayer, and I want them to have a relationship with the Lord. And you have to, I feel like, they say start as a child. and it won't depart from you, your lessons. And when you're older, you'll abide by them and you'll have success, because we know in Philippians 4:13, through God, all our strength comes from him, Christ Jesus, who strengthens us.
And I love that, because at an early age, if a child understands that, even if mom, dad, school, teachers, or whomever disappoints them, there's something, or there's Jesus there, or Christ there for them to draw upon, that they don't become losers in the world. If there's bullies, if there's whatever that happens to that child, then they know that they're not alone, that they have a higher power to draw upon, and that they can make it and they can be successful in life. And that's a message that would be profound for all children, I think. Okay, Ms. Smart, we'll let you add to that.
All right, yes, and I totally agree with Dr. Miller as well. With literacy, when you include or you talk about, you think about the reading, the writing, comprehension, the language skills, we begin to teach children those skills very early in age. We begin with teaching them the letters in the alphabet, how to sound the letters in the alphabet, how to identify shapes and colors. We begin in childhood in doing those things, but literacy is an ongoing process. It's those skills are to be nurtured throughout, beginning in childhood and through adulthood. As a trainer of adults, I have observed that a challenge point or a struggle point is reading and comprehension, being able to read instructions and follow through. Mm-hmm. So it's important to begin at childhood, but we still need to cultivate those skills throughout all phases of life, because that's very important. That strengthens vocabulary. Going back to what was said earlier, does build self-esteem and being able to speak before people and giving that confidence. So it's very important to be involved from the beginning at childhood throughout adulthood.
Well, I concur that simply because we have so many, well, I can say of our little Black boys especially, that don't grasp reading or the way that reading is taught to them. And so my whole process is, let's find a better way or another way that they can learn and be successful. Because if they don't have it by third grade and they're moved on through, at some point in time, they're, as you say, self-esteem is gone. Mm-hmm. They don't believe that their worth, their self-worth is gone, and they don't have any means or mechanisms to be successful in society. So they are going to turn to whatever it is that they can to be successful. And unfortunately, that's often negative behavior that happens. And as you were saying, if they can't read, they aren't able to fill out job applications to get a job. They're not able to go get someone to offer them assistance. They can't go back to their teachers and ask for recommendations because they probably did not do well in class. Their parents probably are not giving them the support, or wherever they are not getting the support, simply because they've been acting out behaviors. But a lot of it is, I think, as we are saying here tonight, that the literacy piece is so important to get that child past not even allow them to get to that, because they can be successful in our world if they're able to read and comprehend at the 3rd to 4th grade level. And a lot of our materials, we know, are not written past the 6th grade level. I think it's been dumbed down so much now until it's really not at a higher reading level. So, but I agree with that. Okay, so what, Dr. Miller, do you have anything else to add about that? I know you do, so.
No. I just, like I said, I want everyone to know those basic 4 catechism pieces from those questions asked all the time. How do you pray? And
it is
the
so
10
sad.
Commandments, God's law.
People don't they don't even know how to pray. They don't know that anymore. When we were growing up in school, that was a morning devotion, and we all did that. But that's been taken out of school now. A lot of the things that we learned that made us successful in life, we no longer have. So it is up to us as parents to do that. And the private schools are able to do that too. But
Yes, and I like your private school. I like those catechism measures that you teach the children. How did we pray? Who is blessed?
Yes.
Why shouldn't we want? And what are the Lord's laws?
Yes.
Because America doesn't seem to know who or what the laws are or what they stand for. And why shouldn't we want? And as we were taught, like you said, as children, because according to David, the Lord is our shepherd. And like I say, I just can't stress it enough. I just want everyone to get that connection and that love for Jesus. And why are we blessed? As Jesus taught us, we're blessed. And one of my mother's favorite Beatitudes was, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God."
That's good. I think we all have our passages, but we do know even just teaching the Beatitudes to our children would take them a long, long way. Because when they do get in trouble or they do have needs, there's something back there to fall upon. And oftentimes we're so busy and we don't give them that. We don't give them what they need, which means, and when you're saying their nightly prayers, you can tell them it may not take that much time. Or when you're in the car, when you're wherever. And as Christians, I think we've lost doing that ourselves to some degree as far as teaching something past the Lord's Prayer or the prayer in the evenings that we have with them. And something that we can give a push for. But okay, so let's move on. We're supposed to be on here for no longer than 30 minutes. But Miss Miller, Dr. Miller, I want you to talk a little bit about the expansions of your book and what else you're doing with it, as well as something else that you're doing.
Well, like I said, I'm trying to reach all people, like the word all nations. The book is it will be in Italian, Portuguese, French, Spanish, and English. And and like I said, it's mostly Black people, predominantly Black people in it, because they have a lot of books for European or Caucasian people, but not that many that people that look like me in these books. So I spoke with my first lady about it, or Dr. Norma about it, and I was like, what you think about me trying to do something in the cartoons and put like the Lord's Prayer in it, and like, for example, like when it says "Our Father who art in heaven," and have like a heavenly scene with children, and like a church scene. And she was like, okay, let's see. And I do thank God for her because she's so inspiring. And so I let her look at it, and I tried to take pictures that a newborn or a 3-year-old could try to teach a newborn how to read the book through pictures. They might not know all the words or can't enunciate the words, but through the pictures, they can try to figure them out. Is that clear what I'm saying?
Yes.
In a way?
Yes.
So, and that was the main thing. Like a 1-year-old, if he's hearing it so much, or a newborn is hearing it so much, when he's like 7 months old, he can say, okay, I know that's a father. I know that's a mother. I know that's a brother. I know that's a sister. And they can try to make out the words from the pictures.
Okay, and I know that's how most of the kids learn to read is through, and I know Ms. Smart can probably follow up on that because that's some of the things that she does and teaches, and as well as how kids learn to read from pictures. And the only part about that is if you don't have a parent or someone sitting there with you after you learn to read the pictures, that they actually never make that transfer from the picture to the words. Is that correct, Ms. Smart? Can you help us out with that?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. That is correct. It's so important to spend time with children. If it's not the parents, we have people that are available at church, activity centers. We have our local libraries. There are different avenues to get children involved and to get them interested in reading. Some helpful tips are to schedule some specific time daily to read with children. Build on that time. If you start with 15 minutes a day, maybe the next time in that setting you add 5 more minutes. Choose books with topics that the reader is interested in learning about. Act out the story. Make it interesting. If you're reading about popcorn, pop some popcorn. Whatever that can be done to engage the child, that helps them, stirs them, drives them to want to learn, want to see more pictures, want to know about the words on the page. It's so important to make it fun. I have a niece, and we read a certain book all the time because she was interested in Sesame Street. So we pulled from that and we read that, and she was interested in that. So that was engagement to her, to find a topic that she was interested in, to make it fun, and just have some time scheduled for reading. So again, ideally, it doesn't always begin at home, but we all have responsibility with children to take an interest in them and to help them and steer them and guide them. And again, with Dr. Miller and what she's commented, I agree with her wholeheartedly. If there's a book that children need to begin to read, even early on, that's going to be the Bible. So I'm absolutely in total agreement with Dr. Miller.
Okay, awesome, awesome. So I think we have some starting points, Dr. Miller, that we can push out there to parents. As soon as you find out that the baby you have conceived, then let's start reading these books to them so that they can understand. Well, if they don't understand, but at some point in time, we know, because we know that you're playing music, but we've been told, okay, you need to play the classicals, you need to play the whatever. Why? Your voice can be just as soothing, especially the mother's voice, as the music would be. Or put it to me. You might have them put to music or reading or whatever, because once we get yours done, we'll always get your books. We'll have both of your books audio. So if they can't do that, they still will be able to hear and read the books. Mm-hmm. So I think that's absolutely, it's detrimental to the development of that child. Okay, so let's talk about how we can get these books, or when they're going to be available. I saw that look, Dr. Miller. Okay, so you can tell us when we can get them, when they will be available, because I know everyone is really, really interested in trying to assist. And Ms. Smart, you can also tell us about your training in case people are on listening and need you to come and give them some assistance.
Yes, my book is available on Amazon. It's Grace and the Golden Rule. It's available. I am actually working on book number 2. So she is part of a series. And when you read the last page of the book, that gives you a hint of where we're going with book number 2. So that's sort of a cliffhanger, so to speak. Okay. But I train professionally for an insurance company. If anyone needs assistance, even beyond that, or any type of public speaking, I'm available. I can be contacted. I'm on Instagram. My handle is Negrita Smart. You can send me an email. It's Mrs. Negrita Smart at gmail.com. That's MRS period, Negrita Smart at gmail.com. And I'm always willing to help anyone. Just reach out to me.
Okay. And I appreciate that, because we do know that we've had people who've gotten policies and all sorts of paperwork that they've did not read and signed, and ended up in the end in trouble because they did not or were not able to read. So that's a big point of literacy, that you need to be able to understand, to read and understand what's there. And if you're unable to read, you may have something like dyslexia or some other problem, then you need to have someone to help you to overcome that, or even to read it for you.
Absolutely.
So, okay, really appreciate that. Okay, Dr. Miller, we know your books are well on their way.
Like you say, well on their way, coming soon.
We're very excited about Dr. Miller's books. And Dr. Miller is very concerned about her books. She wants to make sure that they are what she has expectations for them. So we're trying to make them meet those, and to be what all children need to read or hear in the time from infancy all the way through. But tell us a little bit about your other book as well. You have another one coming out pretty soon.
Oh, yes, I have a book coming out pretty soon called About Crispus Attucks, the first Black man that died in the American Revolution in 1776 during the Boston Massacre. And I was really shocked when I did a survey of students and adults, and they didn't know who he was. And I was taught who he was at an early age, because I have older siblings, and my brother attended a school that they taught about Black history, because most of his teachers was Black during that time as well. And he told me about Crispus Attucks and also Phyllis Wheatley. And I was somewhere this past weekend, and the lady said that she knew about Phyllis Wheatley as well. And they had they had different things with the name Phyllis Wheatley on them, but they had tore them down. And most children don't know who Phyllis Wheatley is. And I was like, nobody fought to say the name. She said, no, because really nobody cares who Phyllis Wheatley is. And she's like my first lady. She was the first female poet in America.
Oh.
But nobody really recognizes that. But she was.
Okay. And so we're writing, and our history buff here, I'm sure, has quite a few books in her that we'll see in the very near future.
Well, thank you, First Lady, or Dr. Norma.
But we're excited about that, and that one is almost ready. So we're working on it diligently to get it out, because as she said, we need to get it into the schools. But with the new laws and things going on, we don't know what's going to happen with that. So you all pray about that as well.
Because no one wants to know about Black history.
So we need to pray about that. But
yes.
we know it will be in New Life Christian Academy, nowhere else. And we will ship it out everywhere else. It will be in Africa. We do know that. So, okay, ladies, does anyone have anything else you have burning on your hearts that you know that our listening audience may want to hear? I was keep trying to check to see if anyone has any notes up or comments, but I haven't seen any. So,
well, I thank you, First Lady, for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening. And you are a motivator, and I like everything you're doing. And I guess I look up to you like a big sister, because you are a trailblazer in life, and you're awesome. And thank you again.
Well, thank you. I wasn't expecting all of that, but thank you. I appreciate that. All right, Ms. Smart.
Yes, thank you for inviting me to have conversations with Chosen Pen. I really appreciate that, and the Chosen Pen family. I really do. And again, just a reminder to all of us, we all have a responsibility to help children. We can't allow it to be someone else's responsibility or expect someone else to jump in and help. When we see a need, let's just jump in and let's help. Let's find something that we can do.
I agree.
Okay, so okay. Well, I don't know if this is trying to tell us that we're going over our time, but I would like to say that we're celebrating Chosen Pen's 10th anniversary, September 15th and 16th, here on the New Life campus. We have 4 speakers. I think Ms. Smart is one of those 4 speakers. We have panels on literacy, panels on forgiveness, and panels on herpreneurs and entrepreneurship based on what women have gone through and will be going through for that. And then we have the big sneaker gala that Saturday evening. Mm-hmm. So we're planning to have a wonderful time celebrating our 10 years. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, get your tickets and come on out and join us for a wonderful time. And we would love to make sure that all of our authors are there so that you can also be honored as part of the Chosen Pen family. All right. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
And we look forward to having you back again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.